Welcome to WFPC Podcasting, your local source for the heart and history of Pike County, Indiana. And now, here's your host, Randy Harris.
Welcome to WFPC Podcasting. This is a weekly look at news, information, and the people in and around Pike County. Before the consolidation of Pike County Schools for the 1974-75 school year, the three remaining high schools were Otwell, Petersburg, and Winslow. And when it comes to small-town Indiana schools, many were defined by the success of their basketball program. It was a way of life. And only needing a handful or two of participants, small schools could compete with programs that had larger student bodies. Otwell had some great success, especially in the late 1960s and early 70s. Petersburg had some sporadic success throughout their years, but Winslow was pretty dominant. They had some fabulous runs and some great teams. There's a book out that's called Eskimo Fever. It's written by Mitchell Stinson. Mitch, welcome.
Thank you. Good to be here.
So, Mitch, you've written this book, Eskimo Fever. Oh my, what a study.
A long project, yeah.
And why Eskimo Fever? Why Winslow basketball?
My parents both went to Winslow High School. My father grew up in Winslow in the area and surrounding area. My mother grew up in Murin on a farm, and they both went to Winslow High School, and I heard all the stories. And I had written two earlier books that were actually published. These are baseball biographies, as you know. And my mother said, well, you should do a book on Winslow High School basketball next. And I said, no. Who's going to buy that besides Winslow people? But then I thought about it more and more, and I thought, well, if I'm going to do it, I need to do it soon because, they're not getting any younger, the people who went there and played there. So I just kind of on a whim said, well, let's do it.
Well, it's an incredible legacy and their success. And I think you mentioned in the book they had 1,300 games from the late teens to 1974. How many wins? 775 or something like that?
I don't recall, but it's a good percentage.
Oh my, it was amazing.
Yeah.
And they were always good. They were good back in the 20s. They had a great run in the 40s, in the 50s. They were good through the 60s. They were good until they consolidated with Pike Central.
For the most part, there were some downtimes, especially during the Depression. They had some bad teams then. Or I won't say they're bad, but they weren't winning teams. But the 20s, powerhouse. Early 40s, powerhouse. Late 40s, powerhouse. Early 50s is where they really hit their
stride.
Peak. Yeah, they won like 3 regionals in 5 years and really made noise not just around here but across the state.
And that's something unique about basketball compared to other sports that require 9, 11, however many other players. You only needed to field 5 and some backups, but the small schools could compete. And in the winter, we weren't farming. We weren't, going as full blast as we do during the rest of the year. So you could build basketball teams.
They sure did. They sure built them around here, not just in Winslow. Spurgeon, Stendal, which are mentioned significantly in the book, they had their times too where they were powerhouses, and they were a lot smaller in Winslow.
The Cardinals and the Aces. Oh my.
Yeah.
And throw some of the names out of the contributors who helped you piece this book together.
Oh, there's tons. I first want to give a shout out to the old newspapers because that's where a lion's share of my research came, and they're dying off now, but newspapers were a big deal in the past, and they really covered the heck out of their towns. And even Evansville papers covered the heck out of Winslow and surrounding areas. I got a whole lot of information that way. But I also interviewed lots of people too, lots of former Winslow players, and I got a few minor celebrities in here too. Slick Leonard, the basketball legend.
Bobby Plump.
Bobby Plump's in there, yes. And I got to talk to him in person. These other people were on the phone, but
what was Plump's connection to Winslow? Well,
the reason I went after him is because I heard he was approachable, and I figured he must have heard of Winslow. Milan was a southwestern Indiana power, so was Winslow, and about the same time. So I think he must have heard of them, had some opinions of them. So I went up to Indianapolis. They were having a event there for the surviving members of the Milan state champs. And they were having they were signing things for charity, I guess, and things like that.
I'm sure most people understand, but Milan and Bobby Plump and his teammates were the inspiration for the movie Hoosiers that was such a hit back in the 80s.
Absolutely. I remember when I was in college, they were filming not far from there, and they put out like a casting call and said, "We need
extras."
Yeah, we need extras to stand in the crowds. I didn't do it, but considered it. But anyhow, Bobby Plump, as it turns out, had never heard of Winslow, and I thought, "Oh my gosh, I come out here all the way up here for nothing." But he added that, but he did know Dick Farley. And Dick Farley told him about Winslow. That's how he learned about Winslow. Dick Farley hosted him when Bobby Plump made his recruiting trip to IU. So he told me all about that, and it was a real relief that I hadn't made that trip for nothing.
Farley, probably for his day. I mean, he was a pro, and although professional basketball wasn't then what it became through the 60s, 70s, and 80s. Sure. He was at the top.
He definitely was at every level. We knew he was a great high school player. You wonder how is that going to carry over to the next levels? Well, it carried over real well. He was a starter on a national championship team at IU, National Collegiate Championship team. He graduates from IU, goes to Syracuse, New York, plays for the Syracuse Nationals, and they win a championship. Now, he wasn't a starter, but he was like a sixth man. He was important. He was an important part of the team. So, yeah, he did it at every level.
And he how long did he stay in pro basketball?
Not long.
They just didn't pay much, did they?
Well, they didn't, and
he had a family.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And
he, I think he played like a couple of years, and then he joined the Air Force and spent a couple of years, because he was going to get drafted if he didn't.
Korea.
They had peacetime drafts back then, yeah. And he couldn't ever get it back after he went to the Air Force. He came back, he played a year, but he just didn't feel like he was as good as he was, and he kind of lost interest and went into the business world instead.
And we lost him at such a young age. Right.
I believe 39, I think. Yeah, it was cancer, of course, lung cancer.
You've got a lot of other notables. One for that success that you spoke of in the late 40s and 50s. You've got to pay some homage to Kern McLaughlin.
Oh boy, yeah.
Tell us about Kern.
Kind of the John Wooden of our area here. Very successful coach. Played collegiately, University of Evansville, was pretty good. Then he
grew up in Spurgeon, right?
Well, he coached at Stendal. Okay. So maybe he grew up around there, but he ended up coaching Stendal.
I think you're right.
Yeah. By the way, Stendal. I have family members, older family members, who pronounce it like
Stendal.
Yes, like Standale.
Yeah.
I never understood that.
You hear them both.
Yeah. But anyhow, he coached at Stendal, did very well. Small school, punched above their weight. Eventually, Winslow gets a hold of him, does very well there, and that was in like the early 40s, I think, late 30s, early 40s. He leaves. He was always chasing career advancement. You know, you go to bigger schools or a better position, maybe like athletic director, and he eventually ended up as a principal towards the end. But he was always trying to advance his career.
Did he go to Fort Branch for a while?
He did. He went there to become principal.
Yeah.
But so he leaves in the 40s, goes around, wins a sectional or two at other schools, comes back to Winslow when their greatest teams formed in the late 40s, early 50s, and he did end up leaving again, coming back. It was just always career advancement kind of thing.
But he could sure get the most that he could out of what he had.
And he was like the anti-Bob Knight, very quiet guy, very rarely got excited at practice, during games.
More of a John Wooden.
Yeah, I guess so.
Here's how you put your socks on.
Yeah, quiet guy, but boy, he knew his stuff, and he knew how to motivate kids.
You know, Kinder. Tell us about Dick Kinder.
He is something else. Not only was he a great basketball player, but pretty much anything he touched, he was really good at. He was an outstanding pool player, a money pool player. I mean, his son was telling me sometimes he'd come home from playing pool and he had stacks of cash. Also told me that shooting firearms, his accuracy was just amazing. He was just good at anything hand-eye coordination. He was just otherworldly. And of course, he was a great basketball player at Winslow. He started off a little slow. He wasn't real confident. Didn't sound like at first, but once he hit his stride, he was just unstoppable. And he wasn't very big. He was a guard, but boy, could he shoot. He was one of the best shooters you'll ever see.
Set some records in college.
He did. He famously set the record for shooting percentage in one game, and that was hitting, I'm going from memory, 22 out of 26 shots in one game. And so for that period of time, he was a famous player, not just around here, but across the nation. They heard about that.
Bill Walton, I think, was the one that broke his record, and that was nearly 20 years later.
Right. And Bill was shooting, Bill was a big old center. He was shooting his shots from 3 feet.
Right.
Kinder, they say he didn't even have any layups when he did that 22 out of 26. They were all from way downtown, and boy, did he ever have the crowd excited.
The 3-point would have made a difference.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I think he ended up scoring like 44 or something like that. If you add the 3-pointers, I mean, yeah, it would have been off the charts.
Yeah. Red Robert Smith is a great name from Winslow basketball. What did you find out about Red Robert?
Very interesting guy. He hit the ground running as a freshman and was a dominant player. And I know the Evansville paper sure sang his praises. Found it hard to believe a guy that young could just dominate like that. And they won a sectional, I think like 41 or so.
Yep.
And they weren't supposed to win a sectional. The competition was very stiff, including Jasper and Huntingburg, and just really good teams. And they had a series of very close wins in that sectional, and that was a really big deal at that time.
K.O. Smith.
Yeah, always loved the name. He a player on some of those great teams. I don't know if he was a starter or not.
He would share stories with me about back in the day.
And he coached the team briefly when Kern left for the principal's office, the Winslow principal's office. He coached that next year, but it was brief. Kern came right back the next year to coach.
What else did you? So, in your introduction, you're establishing why Winslow, Indiana, and what made up the community, and what drove us to love basketball?
Yeah, I don't know if I ever solved that. We sure did adopt it. Why did we? I'm not positive. I think part of it's because it is an easy thing to get 5 people together to play it. I also mentioned that there's a lot of toughness when you got a mining community surrounded by farming community. I mean, these are people.
Big old rugged.
Yeah, these are tough, strong kids, athletic kids. And it transferred. It transferred to the basketball court.
It was a great release for them.
Yes, I think so. I'd like to backtrack just a little on
please.
Red Robert. The interesting thing about him, I'm going through this research, and he has these great first 3 years, and then I find nothing in his 4th year, his senior year. I thought, what is going on? I eventually find out he was drafted before his senior year into the military to serve in World War II. So he had no senior year.
That's amazing, isn't it? Can you imagine doing that today?
He turned 18 and he had to go.
Yeah. He came back and he ended up, at that point, he was ready to have a family, and he went to Oakland City College.
Eventually.
And he went to U of E.
Yeah, briefly. He went to U of E first.
Or Evansville College, I should say.
Right. We should. Yeah, it was Evansville College back then, and with the legendary A-Rad McCutcheon. Mm-hmm. He didn't get along with him that great. Right. He wasn't an A-Rad fan, so I think he didn't last long, maybe a season, and he wanted to get out of there. And
at Oakland, he became friends with Gil Hodges, and they had some basketball games that they kind of toured around together with.
It's a really interesting part of Gil Hodges' career. He was already playing Major League Baseball, but he hadn't become the star that he would become later. And I guess in the off season, he needed something to do. He went to Oakland City College back then.
Right.
And went to school there and played on the basketball team, and they tell me he was a good player.
Yep. Yeah, I don't think you could do that today, could you?
I don't think so. I don't think you'd want to either. The way they pay baseball players.
I would say too much to lose.
Thanks for watching WFPC Podcasting. Let's take a quick 60 seconds to hear from our episode sponsors.
Real estate is local. It's your most valuable asset. If you're buying or selling, you want a seasoned professional who knows the ins and outs as well as the community. Clicking a link with a bunch of data and being directed to someone you'll never see is not local. At Harris Real Estate, we're right here. We have the data, but we also know the community, and we want to help you. Harris Real Estate has listed and sold hundreds of properties right here. Harris Real Estate, 812-380-1065. When you wash your vehicle on a regular basis, there are many advantages. You're easier to see, you preserve the life of your vehicle, help maintain its value, protect its paint, prevent corrosion, and it just looks better. It only takes 6 quarters or your credit card to get it started. Stop by Petersburg Car Wash today. Petersburg Car Wash, home of the springtime yellow Mustang. 401 South 9th Street, Petersburg. Keep it clean. What do you take away from this? This is a fabulous book.
Thanks.
I picked this up at the Petersburg Library, and they told me, they said, boy, if we've got it in.
Right.
Because I think they have a hard time keeping this on the shelf.
That's what I heard, yeah.
And I'm sure the Winslow branch is the same.
Mm-hmm.
How do we get one of these books?
The best way to do it is to contact me at an email address, Winslow Eskimo, that's pretty easy to remember.
Right.
At gmail.com.
Oh, that's easy.
Yeah, Winslow Eskimo at gmail.com, and put your order in. Tell me how many you'd like, and if you'd like them autographed and what, and I'll get back.
How much are they?
They're $25.
Right. And a little shipping.
Right. All right. We add the shipping to that too.
What is your takeaway? What is your summary on what you put together on Winslow basketball?
They were the small town champions for sure, but also they were like the big guys in Patoka Township.
Right.
They were, and they weren't great all the time. They weren't good throughout their history, but mostly they were. And when they were real good, they were among the elite. They could play with the biggest teams in the biggest schools.
Well, and you know through the late '60s into the early '70s, you had a resurgence, and you had the Elliots, and you had just so many, so many powerhouse players and teams.
Gary Elliott, I would give him the nod as the most explosive athlete to ever play at Winslow High School. And of course, he was on one of the last teams of Winslow High School. Mm-hmm. And Dick Farley is right there, but I'm going to, from what I've heard, I'll give raw athleticism. I'll give it to Gary Elliott. And of course, he just had some monster games. It's funny how his freshman and sophomore years, he didn't do all that much. You brought him along kind of slowly. And they had older guys who, I think his brother was one of them, who were kind of manning the center position. But he gets his junior and senior years, and he just goes nuclear. It's like I say in the book, it's like video game numbers, scoring numbers. He was just an incredible athlete.
And boy, he probably got more attention than Larry Bird. They played during the same time. Right.
Yeah, I mean, although he was undervalued on a statewide scale, he had this phenomenal senior season, and he was only named honorable mention All-State.
Wow. He was averaging 30 points a game? 29.7.
Yeah. And, it's kind of, I don't know, I don't want to say a slap in the face, but they undervalued small schools. I think they figured you're not playing good competition. But
well, and that was the era of consolidation, so they were getting the bigger schools, and the smaller schools were kind of...
Yeah. And Winslow, had some benefit of that. They consolidated with Spurgeon and Stendal in the
66.
Yeah, sounds 67. Right. Yeah.
Well, Boozy. Do you know the Don Boozy story? He was at Stendal. Probably by all rights should have gone to Winslow.
Oh,
that didn't happen.
Yeah, I can't. I wasn't around, but I can't help doing the what ifs on that. If he had come to Winslow like they expected him to, but he ends up going to Holland and carries those teams to some great records. Winslow had pretty good, not great teams during that period. If you put Don Busey on those teams, sky's the limit.
Yeah. But I think his family owned property in both counties, right on the county line, and
right.
But yeah,
and he used to play. He used to play basketball and pickup basketball in the off season with guys from Winslow, and so it could have very easily been him going to Winslow and writing a whole new chapter. His face would be on the cover of this book too. Right.
Quite a community. Who else is on here? There's Red Robert. There's Gary Elliott. You've got Farley in here.
And then the Wayback Machine is Jim Vineyard from he graduated like 1921, I think. Yeah, I call him the first superstar of Winslow.
Tell us about Jim Vineyard.
Very interesting guy. I think the most interesting thing about him is, as great a basketball player as he was, he is probably better known in some circles as a fisherman. He was the most serious fisherman you'll ever meet in your life. He set records for catches, and he ended up in some magazines where they called him like the angler of the year, and he was just the most serious fisherman. If he never played basketball, he still would have been famous for something.
Your first picture in here of him was of him fishing, not
Right.
no basketball.
Right. Yeah, his family made very clear to me that was his biggest passion. And he just happened to be a really good basketball player, too. They say he was a good athlete, good shooter. Back in those days, you had the center jump after every basket. And sounds like he got a lot of the tips. Sounds like they kept possession quite a bit after made baskets because he was a good athlete, just a all-around good player.
And good people. Pike County seems to produce some good people with good values.
Oh yeah, it was a real pleasure talking to a lot of these people, a lot of family members, a lot of people who played, and a lot of people who related to the people who played, and yeah, just really good stock.
What am I forgetting to bring out?
Oh. I guess what I would like to emphasize, we'll put it that way, is that this is a book about Winslow High School basketball, from the start to the finish, the school from 1911 to when it went out, 1974. But it also pays homage to the other county teams, Petersburg, Stendal, Spurgeon, Otwell. They had their great moments in the sun, and I ran across those while researching Winslow, and I felt it important to get them in there too. They deserve their recognition, and if someone else ever gets the urge, I think there's books to be written about some of these teams.
Velpen had a basketball team.
Technically, I don't.
Were they the Eagles?
That sounds familiar. I don't think they.
Not too long, but
No, and in fact, I don't. I want to look it up, but I don't know if they ever really played Winslow. Some of these teams, these county teams you see on the banners, you think, okay, well, Winslow padded their record by beating these teams, but some of those teams, they didn't really play much.
Union had a basketball team.
They did.
Briefly.
They did, and yeah, they upset Winslow at a sectional at some point, I think. So they had that moment in the sun.
There's your Uncle Jim in there.
Yeah,
Jim Klipsch.
Yeah.
And that's how you and I got together. One of my first friends from Pike County through USI was Ted Klipsch.
Sure.
Who is your cousin.
He is.
And when he found out about this podcast, he sent me a note, said, you need to get my cousin Mitch in there.
Okay. Yeah, he's always been supportive of my books, my previous books. He he lives out in the Seattle area, and he always goes down to the library and orders, places an order. So I'd like for you to have this book in your library. And I don't know if it worked for the latest one, but I think it worked for that Ed Roush book.
Yeah, and you wrote this 2015, maybe 16?
No, that was 2000. That came out in 2010.
Oh my!
Yeah.
Time slips away.
Yeah.
And thank you for the copy that you sent me back then. But Ed, what a phenomenal guy! You've written 3 books.
Yes.
You've written Winslow. I get it. You've written Ed. I get it. And then a guy that he was his manager, was his coach. I think they played together a little bit.
They did. Yeah.
Bill McKechnie. How did you come to write a book on Bill McKechnie?
Yeah.
Interesting guy,
Yeah.
Hall of Fame manager.
Yes, and a real old timer. I mean, he was even older than Ed. Yeah, he's from Pennsylvania, so you think, where's the connection with me? What happened was my publisher liked the first book, and they wanted me to write a second book. So they said, give us some ideas on a second book. And since Ed Roush was close friends and had a lot of history with Bill McKechnie, I already had some research on him done. So that was one of the ideas I sent them. I sent them about 3 ideas, and they chose the Bill McKechnie. And no one had written a book on Bill McKechnie, and he deserved one. You know, he was Hall of Fame manager.
Interesting guy.
He was. Called him Deacon Bill. He was a religious type and didn't curse. And and for that era of baseball, that was rare. That was a roughhouse era.
I remember Ed really respected McKechnie, Bill.
Yeah, they were close friends. Their wives were friends. They retired to the same Florida town and spent time in Bradenton.
And he didn't always like his boss. Ed didn't always go along just to go along.
Well, no, he was famous as a hardcore negotiator for salaries, but he had a very matter-of-fact explanation of it. He said there's no other way to get your money rather than hold out or threaten to hold out. So he became known as a holdout, but he didn't have agents negotiating for you. Yeah, you had to be tough yourself.
Yeah.
And he sure was, and he usually got his money.
He saw the nonsense and said, enough's enough.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
He became friends with, and I don't remember, it's been 15 years, but, he and Ty Cobb had they admired each other, admiration for each other. And Ty Cobb was the one that talked Ed into investing in buying stocks from Ty Cobb's Georgia-based friends, Coca-Cola, in Atlanta.
I hadn't heard that one. I didn't know Ty steered him towards that.
and Ty wrote Ed a letter asking him about place hitting. He said, "Tell me how you place hit the way you do." So he was pleased that greatest hitter in baseball was asking him for advice.
Yeah, talking to Ed, I was first time I talked to Ed with the tape recorder with me, I was like 14.
Give me a year. What year was that?
I'm going to say 76, maybe 77, thereabouts. And that was like talking to Buffalo Bill Cody. I was into baseball hero worship back then, and
right.
And just to sit there and listen to him talk about personal experiences with Ty Cobb and Babe Ruth and Tris Speaker and John McGraw, I was in heaven.
Yeah, my buddy Dave Johnson, who wrote with the Evansville Courier, he gave me Ed's phone number, and I just called him up one day and drove to Oakland City, and we just sat. I sat on his floor, he sat in his rocker, and we just talked.
And that's how easy it was with him. When I went to talk to him, my father had told me, "Hey, there's this Hall of Fame baseball player in Oakland City. He just walks around just like a regular guy." So I said, "I want to talk to him," which is kind of audacious when I look back on it.
Right.
But we all showed up unannounced. Me, my father, my mother. I think my grandmother was with us too. Actually, we just showed up and he was mowing his backyard. We went out there, waited for him to finish mowing. Went up and said, "Like to talk baseball with him." He was fine. He just sat down on the bench and off we went.
Great. Did he give you a Hall of Fame card?
I think he did. If he didn't then, he did the next time. I talked to him. I know I have one.
Yeah, he would call for his daughter, and he'd say, give this man an autograph, and it was his Hall of Fame card.
Right. Yeah, he used to carry a stack of those along with him, like in his shirt pocket.
Mm-hmm. What else do you remember about Ed?
Well, of course, Ed was the alpha male. He was a rough and tough customer. And, when I met him, he was in his 80s, and he still talked pretty tough. In fact, I won't tell you all the things he said.
Mm-hmm. I remember asking him about players today, and I said Pete Rose. I said, would he have made it back in your day? And he said, well, Pete's about through now, but this was mid '80s, and but Pete Rose's dad. Pete's dad's favorite player was Ed Roush. Grew up in Cincinnati.
Sure, yeah.
And that is where Pete got his head first slide from. His dad telling him about Ed Roush.
Yeah, Ed was certainly the Cincinnati legend. But you know what? He always came home though. He never, moved to the big city.
Might go to Bradenton for the winter.
Oh, sure, yeah. He built a house down there, but it was, fairly modest.
So tell us about you. It sounds like you and I are about the same age. Where did you grow up?
Not around here, not even close. I grew up on the island of Guam. My parents got teaching jobs there when I was young. I moved there about age of 6. And
give us a year, 1970.
Oh, we moved there in 69. 1969 we moved there. And I stayed there for about 14 years before I came back stateside to go to Indiana University.
Wow.
Yeah. So I grew up overseas, but I still heard the stories from my parents. And we came back during the summers quite a bit. Not every summer, but we came back quite a bit. So I got the feel of my parents, hometowns and the people in them, and people knew you. It's funny. There was a Winslow sheriff or something to that effect. He knew who I was. Like, how do you know who I am? Like, yeah, small town,
Yeah. What was your mother's maiden name?
Potter.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Great.
And her father was a teacher and a principal, I think elementary principal. They say in his youth, he sometimes rode a horse to school.
Yeah, doesn't surprise me. Are these out of print? If somebody wants an Ed Roush book,
well, they could order it through the publisher, McFarlane. If you can look that up, just McFarlane Publishing. Do a Google on that; it'll take you to
Mitchell Stinson, Mitchell Conrad Stinson.
Conrad's my father's name, so I thought just as a tribute to him, I put it in there.
Great. What's next?
I don't want to write any more books. It takes a lot out of me.
What is your regular occupation? What do you do?
Well, I was when newspapers were still a thing. I was a sports writer.
Okay.
But now, kind of like semi-retired.
Where did you work in sport in newspapers?
Well, I started off the Pacific Daily News in Guam.
Wow.
But came back to the States, went to IU, majored in journalism there, worked at a paper in northern Indiana, and then I went to Alaska for a couple of years. I worked at a biweekly paper there, and then I came back to Evansville, and I worked at the newspaper in Henderson across the bridge. Worked there several years.
Did you ever, you gave reference to them, did you ever bump into the hearings?
Oh, sure. Yeah. They're like that sheriff I mentioned, they knew about me before I knew about them. And so small town stuff. Mm-hmm. And my parents knew their family. And so, yeah, they recognized me right away. I didn't always recognize them, but they'd recognize me.
It all comes back to Pike County, doesn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, my parents, they retired to Evansville, but my father used to drive down here weekly to go to a breakfast at Lechty's Hardware and Restaurant.
All right, Trading Post.
Yeah. Where do you see that? Where else do you see that?
Right. I played a wedding dance in the hardware store one time.
And it was an experience.
And the reception was right there.
I mean, you can sit there at your table and eat your pancakes, and you're within arm's reach of nails and,
Whatever
and
you
screws
need.
or whatever.
It's all right there.
Yeah.
Great setup.
I miss that.
Yes.
I do miss that.
Thanks for joining us for this program of WFPC Podcasting. The book is Eskimo Fever. It's written by Mitch Stinson. It's a great read, great for your library. You can get a copy today by going to winsloweskimo@gmail.com. And thanks for joining us for this program of WFPC Podcasting. The program is brought to you by Harris Real Estate and Petersburg Car Wash. Please like the podcast and share with your friends so more people can hear about WFPC. You may find WFPC on YouTube, our website, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and wherever you listen to your favorite media. See you next week.
Welcome to WFPC Podcasting, your local source for the heart and history of Pike County, Indiana. From back roads to town centers, we bring you the voices, stories, and news that shape our community. Join us on this journey through the past, present, and future of Pike County, Indiana. Tune in next week for the next episode of WFPC Podcasting.